Hello and welcome to the Awesome 180 channel. I am Ashton Doctor, your habit coach. And today we're going to be talking about how the plate of food that you eat actually could be an excellent indicator of your health. So very often we don't think about what our plate of food looks like. We just eat whatever has been put in front of us. But it's important to note what proportions of the kinds of food we're eating can have an impact on your health. So there are 4 categories of food to think about. The first one is protein. So your chicken, fish, eggs, meat, paneer, beans, pulses, if you're a vegetarian, they all fall into this category. The second are fats. Good healthy fats like ghee, butter, olive oils, all of those, coconut oils, those fall into the fat category. And then we have starchy carbohydrates. These are your rice, wheat, your breads, rotis, even your potatoes fall into this category. Starchy carbohydrates are basically carbohydrates that once we ingest and digest, they form sugar or glucose in our system. The last category is interesting. These are your fibrous carbohydrates. Fibrous carbohydrates are what we typically think of as vegetables. So cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, bhindi or ladyfingers, French beans, all of these, your greens, these are all your fibrous carbohydrates. So typically when you think of someone's plate, in fact, think about your plate, what you had for lunch yesterday or dinner, and what did it look like? Typically, we have 50% or 60% of starchy carbohydrates. That's what we're currently doing. Then the vegetables are on the side for flavor. Think about it. How many rotis do we have? 3, 4 rotis or this much quantity rice? And the vegetables are typically far smaller. The vegetables just add the flavor today. Proteins, where does proteins exist on this plate? Very often, we don't have protein as part of our meal because we don't think about it. So we're constantly undernourished when it comes to proteins. It's important to have this right mix and balance. And lastly, of course, fats, because we've been told by society that fats are bad, cholesterol, etc. Fats very often don't exist in our plate. So it's important to have this right balance, and I have a way of breaking down your plate so you get this right balance. So let's look at what your ideal plate should look like. So if you think of your plate, I want you to think of 45% of that plate to be filled with fibrous carbohydrates. Yes, those are your vegetables, the thing that we eat the least amount of. I want you to eat a lot of that. Then we should think about protein. Protein should be about typically 25% of your plate. A visual cue is the size of your palm or the size of a deck of cards. That's how much protein you should be having. Follow this by starchy carbohydrates. About 10% to 15% of your plate should be starchy carbohydrates. And finally, fats. The good fats should be about the size of your thumb, which is about 5%. And your habit coach pro tip here is that you'll notice that the total percentages don't add up to 100. So because we have 45%, then we have 25%, 15%, and then 5%. There's about 10-15% left over. And that is the amount of food that you should not be eating. That's what I call the space that we leave for air. Remember, we had done a video on how not to eat till you're full. This is the 10% that makes sure that you're not overeating. Leave this empty. So your habit for the week is to eat like this, in these proportions. So typically if you're having 3 or 4 rotis, cut it down to 1 and increase the number of fibrous carbohydrates that you're eating instead. Add protein to your food. Consciously think about where am I getting my protein from and add that to your food. Finally, don't forget the fats because good fats are essential for our body. And lastly, the empty space. Most essential thing for your food is not to overeat and have a healthy relationship with your food. So remember to share this video, especially with the family that is preparing the food for you, so they know that you have to send more vegetables now, or friends that you eat with on a regular basis. This is so important because just by looking at each other's plates, you can say which direction someone's health is going to go into. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit like and subscribe to the channel. There's also a tiny bell icon next to the subscribe. Click that so you know when future episodes come out. I am Ashton Doctor, your habit coach, and remember, awesome lives start with awesome habits.